Afternoon. Roy Rickhuss, Community Union, moving motion 11, President Conference. As we meet here today, it's no exaggeration to say that out there our manufacturing industries are engaged in the fight of their lives. It's never been so tough for UK manufacturing, with the economic stagnation and the crisis in the Eurozone dramatically reducing the demand for manufactured products. And if that wasn't enough, our industries continue to be hamstrung by the lack of any coherent economic or industrial strategy emanating from this government. It's at times like this that you need all the assistance you can get. You have to pull every lever and use every opportunity to make things happen. And there is so much that a government with the right political will could do to support our industries, like through the intelligent use of public procurement policy. Notwithstanding the excellent presentation we heard this earlier on today from Anne, where she was arguing and making a very good argument for further investment to stimulate growth. Notwithstanding that, the government already spends over £200 billion each year, so the potential for the government to act as an engine for growth is massive, and we urgently need that potential to be converted into effective support for our industries in these difficult times. But that's not going to happen if public contracts are simply awarded to the cheapest bidder. We desperately need public bodies to make greater use of community benefit clauses in tendered contracts, clauses which mean consideration can be given to the interests of local communities and factors like jobs and skills. UK manufacturing just cannot afford to lose out on major public infrastructure projects. Take the case recently, £790 million contract to supply steel for the Forth Road Bridge, and that contract ended up going to producers in China, Poland and Spain. This in spite of the fact that Tata Steel's plate mill at Dale, just down the road from the Forth Bridge itself, could have supplied more than 1/3 of the steel that was required. Community benefit clauses were not used in the tendering process. The contract went to the cheapest bidder, and UK industry, UK workers and the UK economy lost out once again. We need to get real about public procurement in this country and start making it work for us, just like they do on the continent. It's utterly inconceivable that the French or German authorities would have stood idly by whilst the workforce at Bombardier in Derby was made redundant last year. There was £1.4 billion contract to be awarded that could have secured the company's future, a contract that instead went to Siemens to employ German workers to build trains in Germany. It's time to get serious about whether we want a manufacturing sector in the UK or not. You would have thought the last few years would have taught us not to rely on the financial and service sectors for our economic security, but lessons still need to be learned. My union firmly believe the UK manufacturing can still have a great future and make a huge contribution, but we need the government to work with us. So let's campaign for using procurement policy to help give our manufacturing industries a chance. Let's prove we can still make things in this country, and let's have the opportunity to compete with the best in the world. I move the motion.
Ronnie Draper, Bakers Food and Allied Workers Union, seconded motion 11. I'm proud actually to be seconded it. It's ironic really, as it actually highlights one of the reasons why our own union is not so pro-Europe. These are the sort of things that happen to us while we're in there. The one thing we do, we clearly recognise the ludicrous situation that allows manufacturing industry to fall into terminal decline, while at the same time we need the products and have the expertise, the technology and the willingness to make them. I actually seconded a similar motion to this at the TUC a few years ago. It was a Unite motion, and it was moved by Tony Woodley. And it got absolutely unanimous support from the trade union movement. But that's where it ended. Nothing seems to have been driven forward from that day until today. And so I hope that we at the end will be supporting the same motion with as much gusto as we did then. The motion gives the example of the workers at Tata in Scotland having the capacity and the skill to produce the steel to build a bridge which was just down the road from them. Instead, that produce or the steel went abroad to Poland, China and Spain, and then re-imported back over here to do a job. It's a travesty, but you know, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Think about our shipbuilding industry. People who worked at Camel Laird in Liverpool, people who worked at Harland and Wolff, and look at the devastation that's been heaped upon cities like Liverpool, like Glasgow, the Clyde, and like Belfast, and forgive the pun, as their business was shipped abroad. Talk to people who worked down the coal mines and seeing cheap imports coming in from Russia and the far Eastern Europe, coming in that actually devastated not only the jobs down the mines but communities, and we're still paying the price of that now. Talk to the people who worked at British Aerospace, Jaguar, Vauxhall, and 1,000 more companies whose skills have been transferred abroad, not because of capability, skill shortages, purely on price. We've got to say, from its inception, the European Union has been based on the principles of freedom of movement. Movement in labour, movement in services, goods and capital. 4 capitalist principles that have led to demise across the board. Manufacturing industry destroyed, salaries undermined, imports rocketing while exports fell, and all revolving around one thing: money. Thatcher's removal of exchange controls made capital king at the expense of our manufacturing industry, and her legacy still lives on today, even though she doesn't. It's that of Britain being given the task of specialising in financial services, whilst the rest of Europe raped and pillaged our manufacturing industry. Whilst not professing to be an expert in the field, my understanding is that the EU introduced rules on procurement that in essence stopped us regaining our past as far as industry goes. Neither do I necessarily agree that the EU permits any meaningful community benefit. I don't think that happens. I think indeed that the rules appear to prevent them, and therefore us, if you like, lies the problem. We've seen almost blatant disregard of these rules by the likes of Germany and France when it comes to protecting their industries, the same industries that we've been trying to protect over the years. French subsidies to prevent the car industry going bust, subsidies that gave them a competitive edge while our car industry became not our car industry. This was done with almost total impunity because of the power that those two countries wield. So if it is, as I believe, against EU rules to have community benefit schemes, until we start to seriously analyse who benefits from our membership, then I would suggest the blatant disregard of the need to protect UK jobs will continue unabated. Indeed, the bigger danger is that our procurement policy will be forced out into the global market, where labour and prices are much cheaper than even in Europe. The consequences are already there to be seen, as millions of UK jobs are transferred to the Far East. And I remember when I did my NEBOSH course with a guy who worked for FTAT, whose factory was closing, and he was sent over to China to train Chinese people to take his jobs. And once he trained them, his own business closed down. That's the reality of what's happened to British industry, and we're allowing it, if you like, to happen. But experience it now without any national or European protection. Maybe when the same protections that have been enjoyed by Germany and France disappear, we will see a very different attitude towards procurement. We can't, though, just blame the Tory government, as much as I'd like to. because Labour was in power for 13 years and did very little to defend community benefit procurement. Whether you agree with membership of the European Union or you're against membership of the European Union, you cannot fail to see the benefits that this motion will bring if it was to become reality. Steel mills reopened, the potential to reinvigorate our automobile industry and the regeneration of our heavy industries. Hundreds of thousands of workers re-employed, as Anne said before, paying taxes, spending money in shops, buying cars and buying houses. We need a will to succeed at government level, a will that goes beyond exploiting a business opportunity for personal financial gain. Alas, the battles that Cameron and his cronies say they are fighting in Europe will have little to do with procurement policy and more to do with what they can glean from employment law. The prize of implementing this motion is immense, and it's one that we should all be fighting for, whether we work in industry or not. So we have the pleasure in seconding this motion, and I hope that everyone here supports it. But more importantly, that you go back from here and you campaign actively to get it.